Look, if you're not comfortable selling your business, how is anyone else going to be, right? And even if you're not a trained salesperson that knows how to, to present it exactly the way a salesperson might, the passion will come through, right? What do you love about the product? And so you've got to also just model the enthusiasm that you want others to follow. So, and I don't think no matter where you are in your journey as a CEO, you ever give away the role of a salesperson. You've got to always keep marketing your business and putting it out there.
Yeah. Hello, folks. Welcome to My First Business. I'm Naeem Pervez, and this podcast is for entrepreneurs, young or old, who are looking to improve the way that they look after their business. Each episode is designed to be like a conversation with a mentor that you never had, and you'll find inspiration, guiding principles, and possibly some solutions to your current business problems. We talk about the lows, like wanting to shut it all down, and we talk about the highs, like starting your second or your third or your fourth successful business, and also everything in between.
My guest today is Marie-Christine Luijckx, or we're just going to call her MC. MC is a co-founder of Fruitful. They deliver delicious, fresh, and healthy fruit snacks that people can actually feel good about eating. Secretly though, I think, or my guess is that they're trying to get you to stop eating your Mars bars and Oman chips while you're pretending to be busy at work. All right, let's back up. Just a few years ago, we were in a crazy world turned topsy-turvy by a nasty pandemic. Things were going bonkers, businesses were shutting down, and supplies were vanishing like socks in a washing machine. But guess what? In the middle of all of that mayhem, one business, Fruitful Day, not only survived, but they actually thrived. See, Fruitful Day was all about delivering these fruit boxes to fancy corporate offices. And I think their B2B portion of their business represented about 80% of their revenue. But when the pandemic hit, all the deliveries came to a screeching halt and orders started vanishing like a magician's rabbit. Talk about a punch in the gut. So did MC throw in the towel? Absolutely not. She's made of sterner stuff. So MC and her squad did a total 180. They pivoted hard and focused on deliveries for home-based customers. They worked their magic. They revamped everything, their brand, their product, their marketing, and boom, just like that, home deliveries now represent 80% of their business. So while the world was losing its marbles, Fruitful Day had actually cracked the code. Their ability to be so resilient and adapt to the change really blew my mind. So join me for a wild tale and a juicy ride as I uncover the epic saga of Fruitful Day. In this episode of the EO series of My First Business podcast, MC and I talked about how she runs product experiments, and you better be taking notes because she does it in such a smart way. We talked about her leaving her decade-long corporate career as a banker to start a fruit business. We talked about Fruitful Day closing close to $1 million in funding recently. We talked about how to actually listen to your customers, hint, use your social media prowess. We talked about structuring successful partnerships with your friends and even your spouse in your business. I think this episode will tickle your funny bone, it'll inspire the socks off of you, it'll give you the mojo that you need to face any challenge that's coming your way. So without much further ado, here's MC on the EO series of the My First Business podcast.
This episode is brought to you by the Entrepreneurs Organization. Now, before I tell you what they do, first, let me tell you the numbers behind Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO for short. So they started in 1987. They've currently got 17,000 influential business owners as their members, spread across 213 chapters in 60 plus countries worldwide. They've been in the UAE since 1997 and have 119 members here, with a median member sales of roughly $4 million. And altogether, the total number of people employed by their members is over 23,000. And they've got members from all sorts of industries, including technology, healthcare, oil and gas, real estate, hospitality, jewelry, communications, logistics, travel. I could really go on. Mind blown yet? Now, here's what EO is actually all about. Here's what you get for being a member of EO, or here's what they do for you. EO in UAE provides an effective platform for networking, education, and support for business owners. The entrepreneurial journey can be lonely, and I can attest to that. And with an economy that changes on a dime, it can be hard to know what your next move should be. And that's where EO comes in with their support. One of the key benefits of membership is access to a robust calendar of events, including workshops, social events, and learning opportunities. So you get a ton of networking opportunities as well as a chance to learn from experts in your own field. EO also offers a mentorship program, so they pair you up with experienced business leaders who can offer guidance and support as you grow your own business. So for me, I've personally or vicariously benefited a lot from being in the EO network through their accelerator program, of which my partner is a part of. And if you're a business owner tired of taking on your challenges all alone and are looking for unique networking opportunities, along with structured support through accountability groups and mentors, well, you can either start a podcast like I did, or if you don't want to do that, I highly encourage you to apply to EO. I'll leave a link for you in the show notes. And if you're not fully convinced yet, I'll be bringing on business owners on this podcast that are currently members of EO, including today's guest, so you can get a sneak peek of what you're getting. MC, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. I promise you I won't throw any curveballs, but I want to start with one.
Already, huh?
Yeah, already. Hot seat. So let's assume I'm a genie. And
Okay.
I've come to you. And I'm a very incompetent genie. I don't grant all wishes. I can only grant one of 3 possible wishes. And you have to pick which one.
Okay.
You only get one shot.
Hit me.
And I don't have a lot of options. So option number 1, I can give you access to a massage chair anywhere, at home, anytime you want. You snap your fingers, you get a massage chair. Option number 2, you get to sleep at 9 p.m. every day without anyone bothering you, without missing out on any of your social life, anything. Sleeping at 9 a.m. was like, it'll be done for the rest of your life. Option number 3, you get to score a good deal whenever and whenever you wish. Whatever you're looking to buy, you always find the best deal. What would MC pick from this incompetent genie?
This is an easy one for me. Anyone who knows me knows I sleep at 9 p.m. And I love sleeping at 9 p.m. So I will keep sleeping at 9 p.m.
No massage chairs?
My dentist has a massage chair, so
Okay.
if I ever need
Good
one,
hack.
I go for my cleaning.
Good hack. And I should mention, when you're scoring a good deal, you can't score a good deal on massage chairs.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Or a mattress.
Amazing. Well, I just wanted to start there because it's nice to get a little personality behind what it is, because we're going to be talking about a lot of business stuff, and we're talking about business principles and philosophy. And I'm basically looking for a mentor for 2 hours is the real reason I do these podcasts. I want to talk about the time where you left the corporate world behind. We were talking a bit before we got started. We do have some similarities in our careers. I want to expand on that. You left the finance world behind to start your own business. The first thing I want to ask you, you're on your way, you're doing your CFA and everything's working well, and you jump into business. I want to find out from a family and friends perspective, what did they think of that decision? How did they respond to you leaving something that is working into this? What was the initial response? Was it helpful? Was it, what are you doing with your life? How did that go?
So I got to separate my family and my friends. My family was hugely supportive. And in fact, my father became an entrepreneur the same time I became an entrepreneur.
Did he?
Yeah.
How old was he?
He was 2015, 62.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to bring him on next.
Unfortunately, he passed away in November, but
I'm sorry to hear that.
he would have been an amazing guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we became entrepreneurs at the same time. So we were hugely supportive of each other. I don't think my mom had a choice. She leaned in. She's always supportive of us anyway. My friends at that point were mainly from the banking world. So I don't think they knew what I was doing, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I don't think they had an opinion either which way. It was just like, okay, let's see how it goes. And so I took the leap. But there was a real change in my life between my working world and my entrepreneurial world, which is having my daughter in 2015. So that led to the shift, really.
Wow. So you want to do it all on the same year, basically.
I always say I was an accidental entrepreneur because if I had thought through all of this,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have necessarily made sense. But I think that is sort of what entrepreneurship is about, right? If you knew everything, it would seem overwhelming. You just kind of take one challenge at a time. So for me, naively, when I had my daughter, I took, Barclays was very generous at the time. I took a year maternity, and I sort of realized I want to be able to spend time with my daughter, but I also want to work. So how can I create balance in my life? And I thought starting a company equaled balance. I found out later that it's not so easy. But in my mind, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's very romantic to think about being your own boss and your control and this flexibility. I'm yet to see a lot of that come in, and I think it'll come in over the years. I'm much more new into the game than you are. You're right about the accidental entrepreneur. Like, I relate to that because Alina was an accidental entrepreneur, and so am I. And giving credit to Alina, she is not an overthinker. And that's what caused her to kind of jump out on her own. And I'm the guy, so she's a 0 to 1 girl, where she comes with the idea and she brings it to life. I'm the 1 to N guy. It's like, okay, can we move a bit slower? I'm the pessimist of the two. And that's why that combination kind of works really well, because she doesn't overthink. Because you're right. If you start to think about everything that can go wrong, you'd never take that first step. When you're on that bridge of entrepreneurship, which is just before getting it, were you overthinking? Is this a lesson you learned later that overthinking is bad, or you've just generally been good at forging ahead and taking your shots?
At that point, I was not overthinking. So the two partners I have in my business are families that I've worked with since my Barclays days. We've known each other pretty much since 15 years now, I would say. So I met them 2 years into moving to the UAE. So I took a leap of faith because I knew them, and I knew that whatever it was, we could create something special together. And that gave me a lot of confidence in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's always good to have that support, and because you can get lonely by yourself too, and you don't know where to put the stop sign for yourself. I want to talk about the adjustment that you talked about too, finding balance and just digging deeper into that. How has that changed from 2015 to now? Like, your view on flexibility and balance. What did you think about it? How much of it did you think you had? And what is it today?
It's a good question. In the beginning, I would say, look, my company was a lot smaller. So I had more flexibility because it kind of went at the pace that I was willing to go, right? We started with 1 employee. Now we have pretty much 40 employees. So the responsibility is a lot bigger now. So making that choice, it's not just a choice for myself anymore. It's a choice for my company. I have a team I'm accountable to. Thankfully, my husband joined me in the business about 3 years ago. So we share that responsibility of business and kids. So we kind of, we decide who leads for the day.
I like that.
Because somebody's got to pick up the kids. So, okay, You're going to lead on the personal front today. I'm going to lead on the business front today.
Yeah. And do you have meetings with each other just to like plan out the house chores?
We have walks. We found that that's the best way to get through things. Yeah.
I was just thinking this morning when I was refilling the water. So we get those big water tanks that come in, and I'm just the water guy of the house. So that's just my role. And it just became that over time. Like, if we're running out of water, it's my thing. Like, how can we not have water if I'm around? And Alina realizes when I travel without her, or she travels, like, half of the stuff in the house doesn't work because we're so automatically know, like, you're the groceries girl, I'm the water guy, I'm the car, you're the, taking care of the maids kind of person. Do you find the same way in business as well? Do you have overlapping territories with your husband? And I'll talk about the other partners as well, but just in particular with your husband.
With my husband, over time, we've segregated the business. So I work more on the strategy, the marketing, the business development, the culture. He's on operations, finance, HR, tech. Yeah. So we have split, but I think it took us. We never worked together before. Well, we actually worked in the same bank, but not in the same department. Mm-hmm. So we had to get to know each other in a work context.
Yeah.
So now, 3 years on, I think we've figured it out.
Hey, it's almost the same time frame between Lena and I. I think we'll have stories to share throughout this conversation about that. I promise you I'll be taking a lot of left turns and U-turns before we started. It's like my brain works like that guy in Memento, if you've seen that movie. There's no chronological sense to how I come up with my questions. But I want to talk about financial freedom for a second, because it's been on my mind recently in a very different way. Usually when I thought about financial freedom early on, when I've heard of the term, was just thoughts in my own head of what that means, what would that look like, etc. And then recently I started talking to people about it. And no matter who I talk to, I get a different answer. And it's just expanding my mind and also setting limitations on what I think about the whole topic. So I want to talk to you. What do you think about when you think of, if you do think about financial freedom? What does that mean to you? Does that mean something in terms of numbers, in years? What does financial freedom mean to you? What the hell is it?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I wonder what's the best answer you've gotten so far?
I've got such a variety of answers. There's a guy. So my initial answer at some point was like, I need a runway of at least 5 to 10 years of living a life in Dubai at my current standards. And that's good enough for me. If I know I have 5 years, that gives me the freedom to stop what I'm doing today and screw around for like 5 years until I figure something out. I have enough to go by. And this is cost of living in Dubai. So that means in South Africa, that money can go 15 years. In Pakistan, that can go for like 20 years. So I set that benchmark. That's my financial freedom. Then I met a guy who said, no, I want an infinity runaway. So I want X amount of dollars, and then that compounds at 8% every year so that I will never, ever, like, he needs infinity runway. And then I met another guy who's like, hey, I'm setting up for the next generation. So by the time I'm 40, I'm 36 now. So he's the same age as me. In 4 years, he wants enough for the next generation to have schooling and education and like business. And so he's thinking that far. So it's such a wide variety.
So I always bring a lot back to happiness. So financial freedom for me, I think, is, first of all, realizing that you can't have everything in the world, but there are certain things that make me happy, that make my husband happy, that make my kids happy. And I want to be able to do those things in abundance. For example, we love to travel, right? And I don't want to have to think about, can we afford this trip or not afford this trip? If we go here, does it mean we can't go somewhere else? So that financial freedom to be able to do those things that we love is so hugely important to me. And to think about that, not just, I think, in a 5-year time frame, because I've run my company for 8 years now. It goes quick, right? You think 5-10 years, oh, that's a good runway, but time passes so fast. So at least I would think for our lifetime, to be able to do those things that we love. But I think a part of it is also just then knowing that there are things that you are okay to say no to and comfortable to say no to. And you're not, like, for example, cars isn't something that makes me, like, gets me excited. I know a lot of other people are into cars, right? Yeah. So I don't need that to be part of my idea of financial freedom, to have the best car.
Yeah.
And there's a happiness in knowing what matters and what doesn't matter to you, and it'll be different for everyone.
It's true. Well, both Alina and I look to our parents as well, and that generation never thought about financial freedom, at least in our part of the world. They never did. And, they had a bit of a tougher time around retirement, just because they both kind of worked in the Middle East, and we don't have retirement plans over here. So you kind of have to become your own retirement plan when you live here. And that's just the reality of it. And versus Canada, where, everything is like done and ready for you. You've been investing a certain amount from your paycheck because the government just takes it and puts it in RRSP, it just grows. Plus you got pension, plus healthcare, plus everything. And we both saw our parents kind of struggle a little bit. Luckily, everything's fine. They're good and in happy places, but there was a bit of a struggle. So our goal for financial freedom initially started like, let's not be like our parents were. Let's be a bit more prepared. But then if I dig into the story of my parents, like, things happened that were way beyond their control. Unimaginable, unforeseen circumstances, they just happen. Life can do that to you. So this 5-year runway I talk about could be gone with one small illness that can go away in 6 months, right? So it almost seems like money is probably not the thing to chase, because like it can make things better, but I'm still making up my mind on it, on the importance of it. Like when I started this business, and I'll ask you this too, like there were 3 reasons I came up with. One was to have the lifestyle that I want, which means to be with people that I want to be, to go wherever I want to go, to do whatever I want to do. So lifestyle means all of those things. Second was money. not the first, not the last, but it was there. It's important. If you're not making money, it's an economic venture. It's not a hobby. Like you need to give value to the world to make that back. And the third thing was to be creative in some way, shape or form. Because I would like to say I have a creative soul. So I play music and, I like to write and stuff like that. And I wanted some bit of creativity in my business, which, is kind of being fulfilled, even with the show or the advertising agency that we run, that kind of works. But did you have a sense of your, like why you wanted to be in business, or did that develop over time? Is that different from the first time to today?
Yeah, I think it keeps developing. But initially what I felt after having worked in banking for 8 years is that I wasn't learning as much anymore. Particularly when you get into kind of a more and more narrow role. And I missed learning. And of course you can spend time after work learning, but let's be honest, it's a pretty long day and you're pretty tired when you get home. And I think it relates to creativity, right? It's this whole idea of opening your mind and seeing new opportunities and exploring different things, right? They're interconnected for me. Yeah. So that was probably like the first leap, was like, let me learn about things I know nothing about. Let me do something different, because you only have one life to live, right? So explore as many things as you can. And so I think that was probably the seed. Money for me, because also coming from banking, so much of the focus is on money. I think I was ready to move away from the focus on money, but as time goes and you have kids and they grow and then you realize
like, oh yeah, that is important.
There is real life. We cannot just learn and have fun and be creative, right? And then, like, importantly, of course, is your actual company and the passion to do what you're doing and have an impact with what you're doing. And that kind of re-energizes you in a way that working for a company that wasn't one you created will never fulfill you in that same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hear on that one. You said at the start you didn't know what you were doing, which is the case for, I think, all of us. I want to talk to you about, was there a moment that flipped, in the sense that, was there a moment where you thought to yourself, I'm onto something good? Like specifically that phrase jumped into your mind, I'm onto something good. This is where I need to be. We're on the right path. What was the first like pivot point into where you were like, you know what, this is going to work. I'm onto something good.
Yeah, so Fruitful Day started by delivering fresh fruit to corporates, right? Boxes of fruits to offices. And, thank you. And very early on, we kind of reached out to our network of people that we knew from working in the DIFC and just, friends and family that were so kind to order a box when we started. But the thing that was like, oh, wow, we are doing something different, is when employees of those companies called and said, your fruit tastes different. Why is it so good? It reminds me of what fruit tasted like at home. It's not like it's actually tastes the way it's supposed to taste. Can I order the same box from my home? So I realized that the curation, the love that we were putting in really was making a difference, and people were excited to make the healthy choice. And it wasn't just about the office, they were looking to bring it home also. So I think that was like one of the first like positive signs that we were doing something special.
Yeah, so it's not just about hitting a number, it's just making that impact, right?
Yeah.
Well,
and listening to your customer.
Yeah. And I think like it's like you're reading the next question that's coming on, and talk about listening to customers, right? Sometimes your customers can be yelling. When you were a B2B focused business, they're yelling, we're shut. we can't do this. Can you walk me through, like, we talked about feeling good about the business, but like, what was that feeling like when the pandemic hit and like majority of your revenue just went under threat? Did you have a backup plan before this happened? Had you considered it? Did it build on something else? Like, how did you get out of it? Like, you can tell me the story in any context and as long as you want, but I want to hear, because I would be very broken at that point. And that was not too far into that was 5 years into your business, right? That happened.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that time?
So we lost, I think, 97% of our corporates in a 10-day period. It was like you opened your computer and every email was put on hold. I don't know when I'll be back. Put on hold. Cancel. One after the other, after the other, after the other. It was tough, right? And I remember thinking, right, that was March 2020. And I remember thinking, okay, it's okay. We're fine till June 2020, for sure. this will be back with those offices in June 2020. We can make it that far. And just, again, thank God I was so naive, right? I don't actually think being naive is a bad thing, because if we had known it'd been years, again, it would have seemed overwhelming. So we're back to that. So some of those corporates are just coming back now in 2023. So 3 months was actually 3 years. Yeah. The good thing was that we were already delivering to homes. So back to listening to your customers, right? We had staff that was saying, can you deliver the same fruit to our homes? But it wasn't something we really had focused on in a major way to that point. It was just like people were asking. And so we were delivering to homes, and we had started with our gifting solutions and our watermelon cakes, but it wasn't the biggest part of our business. It wasn't where most of our focus went. But thank God we had started it. We had an e-commerce site. And it was just a realization that we need to completely move all energy into that part of the business. We already have the resources. We have the kitchen. We have the drivers. We have the right license to do it. Just move our energy. And that's what we did. And because we were...
Sorry, how long did it take between like those cancellation emails to you deciding you're going to go 100% into this?
I mean, it was like overnight, right?
Overnight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that there was so much thinking. It was just go, do it.
Yeah.
But this is where the opportunity is. And again, like if you're listening to your customers, it presents itself, because in fact, those offices in some cases were saying, we're shut, but we would love to send something to our staff that are now stuck at home. Do you do home delivery? We're like, yeah, actually we do. And so some of those corporates turned into home deliveries. And that actually turned into a big opportunity, because we could be delivering to 200 people's homes all of a sudden, whereas before it was a couple of boxes in the office. So we pivoted, and we focused all our resources on the home delivery. And actually, believe it or not, we still ended up growing that year, just because of the shift over and how quickly we were able to grow the home segment.
Did you ever in that year kick yourself like, why weren't we doing this before?
No time for that. There was no time for that.
There was no time for
Just
that.
go.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because like when we got the same kind of emails within 10 days, all our clients, like we work on retainer, and clients are like, my shop's shut and I can't advertise for it. Like, can we cancel? But we don't have the luxury. We had the luxury. We're not heavy overhead business. We're a laptop business, and that's pretty much it. You had a lot more considerations. How much staff did you have at that time?
Maybe 25 to 30, I would say.
Yeah.
At that time.
How would you find yourself communicating at that time with staff when things get this bleak for you?
We tried to focus on we're in it together, right? That we're all figuring this out together. And we know you're worried, and we can't say we're not worried, but we are on top of this. We will do whatever we can. And many of my staff have been with me since the very beginning, and they know that I always treat situations with kindness, right? And this was no different. And so in a time of need, they treated me with kindness too. And they said, whatever you need, you tell us. Mm-hmm. And we're there to help you also. And so we just keeping that conversation going and being realistic about, we didn't know what would happen the next day, right? The rules were changing all the time.
Yeah. If you were to go back to that time, would you do anything differently?
It's a great question.
Knowing what you know now, in hindsight, is...
I mean, obviously we would have prepared.
Apart from that, let's assume you still got hit and you had no idea what to do, but...
No, I'm so proud of us and the team and everything that we achieved that year.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what we did with a really difficult situation, and ultimately the impact that we had on people's lives, right? Because there weren't that many companies that could deliver get well soon gifts and care packages to homes in that period, but we had the correct licenses and we had the correct resources, and so I was so proud of what we achieved.
I'm glad you learned a lot from that too. That was a pivot, right? Have you, and this is just like a thought in my mind, that every time we pivot, we kind of do overthink. And I think because the external circumstances are not forcing us, you get into a bit more like, oh, let's do the pros and cons. Oh, let's do the research. Oh, let's talk to a few people about this, which, I mean, are good things to do in general business terms. A lot of the people that have been on this podcast do their research really well before they jump into opportunities now that they're into their second and third businesses. But that kind of circumstance forces you to do the pivot overnight, as you said. Is that held true for you since then? Have you tried any other pivots, whether it's going into a new market, or are those decisions a lot more thoughtful, and like, do you sleep on them, or have you found that, you know, you just need to still run as fast as you did when COVID happened?
When making decisions, I try to focus on two things, apart from the maths and the sort of planning element of it. And the first is like, is there actually a customer that has raised this in one way or another, where this, like a problem of some kind, and this could be the solution to that? So is this like something that's in my mind, or is this customer driven? And you know, we've got over 40,000 customers now, so we have a lot of customers to listen to. So there are a lot of great ideas in there. So first, is it customer driven? And the second is like, does it sit with my gut? Because although you can do all the planning, it has to feel right. And the things that have been most successful for us as a business have really just felt right. The gut instinct was there. So like an example for us was during COVID. So we pivoted to home delivery, but the other thing we did was launch a line of popsicles, of ice lollies. And those were like a project that we were working on in the kitchen. We were just experimenting, and it felt like the right thing for the business because, you know, we serve premium fruit. So we have some like bruised fruit that tastes delicious, but maybe it doesn't look perfect, right? And we still want to find a use for it. So we started to blend them, to juice them, and to turn them into popsicles. And fast forward, now 3 years later, we have 25 Dubai municipality approved flavors of popsicles. But it started from something that, like, it made sense for us. It just felt so right, and it has been.
And was there proof of concept? Like, had you given it away to a few people to see how they would respond, or you just kind of went all in and like, we're now a popsicle company?
No. So we started using IKEA molds.
IKEA molds?
You know that IKEA pop molds? Oh, yes, we did.
Okay.
They were horrible. Okay. Not good.
So you didn't go for an injection molding, like proper mold for yourself.
So
we
we
had to start. Okay.
So we had to start somewhere. We had to start somewhere. So we did. And then actually someone walked into our lives, our operations manager at the time, who had 20 years of ice cream experience, and just walked in and said, "This is a joke." And we said, "We kind of know, but the idea is good, and the love is there, and the fruits are such high quality, right? These are ripe, delicious fruits. So all the elements are there, but it's just not coming together." And she just started creating in the kitchen, and we knew, like, those, when you taste those pops, you know these are different. And so what we did is we started doing trials with customers. So we would do like version A, version B, and then we would ask them to vote and to tell us why they were voting on one flavor over another. And so we arrived at a formulation that had been tested with our customers.
Before you spend hundreds and thousands of dollars in the machinery required to make them at scale?
Well, at that point, we had invested in a bit of machinery. We graduated out of the IKEA molds, but we still like, to this day.
Daiso after.
Hey, Daiso's good for a lot of things, but we just keep buying machinery step by step. So I always feel like you keep building on top of what you learn, and then you improve. You can't do it all overnight.
Yeah.
Unless it's COVID.
Well, that's what I was getting at, right? Like sometimes I wish for things to hit us really hard so that we can just spring into action. Because that when things are going well, I found, at least, we've not done business for too long, 3 or 4 years now. There have been times where things have gotten good and we've become complacent. And we lost the fire, the desire. There's a lifestyle creep, and, you know, not proud of any of that. But how do you keep yourself in check? You know, as you're growing, how do you personally, as MC, stay hungry to know that, okay, this is not exactly where I need to be, but it's good, pat on the back, move on? Or do you find yourself struggling with some of the same things that I have been?
I think we all have our moments for sure, but I'm still as in love with my business as I was 8 years ago. And those, we talked about creativity as something we have in common that we were looking for in our businesses. So in those moments that I don't walk into the office and there isn't something creative that we're working on, then I realize we're just doing BAU, right? We're not pushing
business as usual.
Yeah, business as usual. We're not pushing the envelope. So back to the gut, right? Of course, we've got Asana for managing projects and everything else. There is that element of it, but you have a feeling, is there magic at the moment or is there no magic? And if not, how can we reignite it? Yeah.
And you just kind of know, on your walks, before you sleep and when you wake up, you kind of know something's missing. Like it's getting a bit too bland.
Yeah.
That's what I think entrepreneurs are. We're just not happy with where we are. Even when it's good, we're like, no, not happy enough. What's next?
Could be better.
Yeah, could be better. I'm not full yet. Bring in a third course. Switching topics again. We'll keep coming back to what success looks like, whether it's pivoting or not pivoting. I want to talk about your business crew. So people that you surround yourself with. I've made the mistake of thinking, so as an introvert growing up and now more of something in between that I've worked on, I always felt that I'm on an island and I can do this on my own, and like there's a lot of solo people doing a lot of good things, and life kind of smacked me in the face, especially when you do business in Dubai. You can't be like that. So Lena and I both wanted to leave our corporate jobs. One of the reasons we needed space for ourselves, which was part of that lifestyle thing. We need space for ourselves, but we kind of stumbled and struggled by trying to do it too much alone. And we found our collection of people now to be a real blessing. I want to talk about yours. Who are these people? Who are these? And what role do they play? Are they guides? Are they gurus? Are they just someone to spar with? Are they someone to call out your bad ideas? What role does your business crew play for you? And these are typically people outside your business because the ones in it are too close to you.
So you and I both belong to something called EO Accelerator, or I was before. I've graduated out now. And so I think that was probably the first time that in a structured way I understood the value of having other people in your corner and bouncing ideas off people, but not just one time, but like repeatedly, right? Having a structure and doing it. And so that was the first place that I really found my tribe. I found support, but also this push, that you can do better. You're not addressing this. And are you noticing this about yourself and these patterns, right? Sometimes we don't see these things about ourselves. So I initially invested a lot of time into EO Accelerator, and actually continue to even now. And that same group that I was in with EO Accelerator, which is now I think 5 or 6 years ago, we still speak almost every day. And sometimes it's serious and sometimes it's not. It's kind of changed over time. And it's even today, if there was an issue in the business and I needed them for an hour, we would all make time for that hour to help each other through something that's going on in the business. And these businesses have nothing to do with each other. We're all just learning from different industries and different experiences. It's been such a value add for me.
Could you give me an example of a time where you pulled someone in for an hour to solve a hurdle?
I mean, most recently, I have been scaling our business development team, because as the corporates have come back, we're hiring more salespeople. And now how to manage multiple salespeople. The jump from 1 to 2 salespeople is always the most difficult, right? Once you have your sort of procedures and policies, and then you can add on top. So we're making that shift. I called a mentor and asked for an hour, which turned into 2 hours of time on like, what are the metrics that I should be looking at for these salespeople? How should I think about lead allocation? What a game changer those 2 hours were. I rebuilt all my dashboards in Pipedrive. Like I just really changed the way I have my weekly meetings with them, what we measure, what we look out for. So that would be an example.
That's great. Yeah, I'm a big Pipedrive fan, so free shout out for you guys.
There you are.
Can sponsor it if you want. But no, Pipedrive is great.
Just give me my account for free.
Yeah, you got just her account for free, and then you can pay for everything else. Can I talk about that? Because like that's interesting. So you didn't have a background in like managing salespeople or like sales processes or doing any of the sales yourself at Barclays or anything like that?
No, I did, but in a very formal structure, right? Not starting it from the ground up. And you've got to be a lot more resourceful when you have a small team, right?
Yeah.
And so for me to build it from scratch was what was new.
Yeah. How do you find good salespeople? Are you getting better at knowing what would be a good sales hire?
Yes, I am. I've done really well, and I've also failed, and I've learned so much through both hires. I think it goes back to what we all know: hire for culture, even with a salesperson, and attitude, and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Sometimes with salespeople, it's easy to get distracted because they have connections and they have experience here, there, everywhere. But if they don't fit in the culture of your organization, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
For the long term.
100%. And salespeople generally, being one myself, we're very good at selling ourselves in interviews. We bring our best pitch to the interview, regardless of how our sales skills are. And I've been, bamboozled at interviews. Like, wow, you're just got to bring you on just to let them go in like 3 months. Because what other character traits, apart from fitting within your culture, because that's very culture specific, but is there something amongst the population of salespeople that kind of sticks out to you as a red flag? Let's say we don't know what makes them a good one, but we know what will make them a bad one.
So for my organization, because we have so many different parts to it, you need to work effectively with the drivers, the client service, the kitchen team. And so even in the interview process, like where I might do the first one on Zoom, the second one needs to be in our facility. And I need to see that you're taking interest in all of the teams. If it is like too narrow, then already, like if someone's only focused on the sales part of the job, I will understand in my organization it's not going to work. I need somebody that understands, yes, I'm doing sales, but I'm also a part of a team. And so I can see that in how they're asking others, what is your job? What are you doing? Another question that's worked well for me towards the end of the interview, I say, okay, like after they've had 3-4 interviews with different people, you've met so many people here, you've heard so many ideas. If you were starting here tomorrow morning, how would you spend your first half a day? Where do you see the biggest opportunity? And I let them give me their business plan for the next morning, and that's actually made me figure out who understands prioritization and understands big picture versus somebody that's just got distracted by the last thing that was told to them.
Wow. Okay, I love that, because I've never thought of it that way. Kind of making them summarize everything that they know and putting them in their shoes before they're in their shoes. I like that. And I think this is just the reason I'm having this discussion is I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are technical founders. They are either very product related or they've been in the industry in some back office role and they just know enough about it to start their business, but they may or may not have a strong background in sales or selling themselves. And it's very easy to get impressed by salespeople when they come in for interviews. Like, this is a guy I'm sure you were the first salesperson of the company. Like, you and the partners were the initial salespeople. So you guys had to like kind of do it yourselves to be able to look after someone. But some of the entrepreneurs I know have never wanted to do that. Like, but you can't be in business if you don't do your own sales. And you can't hire good salespeople if you've not done sales yourself. Is that the truth? Or do you think people like technical founders can work with a good sales team even if no one on the partner board has like sales experience? Like, how hard is it for someone who has no experience in sales in running a business? Like, is there a correlation between that? From the people that you know, like, do you
look? If you're not comfortable selling your business, how is anyone else going to be, right? And even if you're not a trained salesperson that knows how to, to present it exactly the way a salesperson might, the passion will come through, right? What do you love about the product? And so you've got to also just model the enthusiasm that you want others to follow. So, and I don't think, no matter where you are in your journey as a CEO, you ever give away the role of a salesperson. You've got to always keep marketing your business and putting it out there.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Does that answer your question?
It kind of does, because one thing I want to shout out from the rooftops, again, not a long time business owner, but I don't know any good businesses that don't have good salespeople as their founders or people on their side. And it's a very ignored kind of area. It's like, don't touch that, because we've all had bad sales experiences as a customer, and you don't want to translate that. There was a time where I was working in tech, and I'd meet a lot of smart people, very good, humble, smart people. Good at coding, good at ideas, good at project management. Like, oh, I want to start this thing. It's like, but you need to sell it. You can make anything you want, but if you don't sell it, you don't market it, no one wants it. You don't even know if anyone wants it. And that part was always ignored. So just getting a message out to people, like, just get your sales down. And there's a lot of ways you can do this, but the easiest way is just to do it.
Start and improve. But you've got to. I mean, even internally, are you not a salesperson? Mm-hmm. Right? Because you've got to motivate your team. You've got to get their buy-in. So these people skills, internally, externally, as a CEO, are super important.
Absolutely. Even at home, right? Like even trying to get it's so funny, because like people, when they go around town, let's say, and they're not getting what they want, it's because I think partially they're not asking the right way. And what is sales if not asking the right questions? Or at least I think so. And I'm not the best salesperson in the world, but someday I'd like to be. I want to talk next about mentorship. So you're notorious. You've got a bit of a profile. You've been profiled, according to my sources, as, oh, you're joining EOA, you got to talk to MC. And a lot of people have said that. I've told Alina that as well. Like, you guys got to talk to MC. She's and Alina is part of Female Fusion Group too. So she's heard good things about you from a mentorship perspective. So I want to ask you if you can take a step back and tell me, what makes a good mentor? Like, people are usually having the discussions of like, how do you find a mentor? I find that question ridiculous, because you just find one. You don't go looking for one. Or that's a different story. That's a totally different ballgame. But you as a mentor, what makes a good mentor? I'll just leave that question at that.
I'm going to talk about the mentors that I have had that are really impactful on me. I think my ask has always been clear. So it starts with that, right? I had a particular challenge in the business or elsewhere that I wanted to work through. And I found somebody that knew a lot about that field. So rather than go broad, we went narrow. That helped. So this is important, because sometimes people are like, I need a mentor for everything. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, I feel like you got to work on one thing at a time. So this is important. The second is like to view it as a two-way street, right? As a mentor helps me, can I help them back? That kind of kindness in the relationship and two-way street is hugely important, because then they'll give more back to you, right? So it's just not take. So those two things are important. And the third is like a good mentor, I feel like, knows how to ask really good questions, which is something I need to keep working on. It's like you just, that ability to ask the right question, because often it's all inside, right? You know it, but it's just being asked in a different way that it unlocks something that you may not have realized.
Yeah. Do you find that you do that with your partners and your partners do that with you? Are you kind of like partially mentors with each other? So
I'm of the three partners, I'm the working partner. So the other two are not working in the business, but I call them all the time with questions. Yeah. And so they fulfill that role for me. And they each have specific things that they're really knowledgeable about. So I'll call one of them over the other, depending on what the subject is. And they always give me that time. And it's so helpful, because I get stuck in my head.
Yeah. No, the thing about reframing that question versus the other thing that people think about is, if I get a mentor, I'll get all the answers. And your mentors are not supposed to have the answers. They're supposed to unlock the answers that are within you. And the first time I realized this, I have a friend who's a bit younger than me in Canada, and he keeps messaging me career-related moves, and he keeps wanting to have pick your brain chats. And I love him, and so I do. But he gets slightly disappointed, but at the same time happy, because I never answer his question. I answer his question with a question. Then I found that, if he's serious, I'm going to give him an exercise to do that has nothing to do with me, but he asked me a question once about, switching jobs. Like, I've got these two options. This is how much they pay. This is that. So I gave him give me a bullet point list. I answered this question and I gave him a question. Give me a bullet point list of all your thoughts. And he said to me that just by writing out those bullet point lists myself, it seems I've arrived at the answers. So I don't know if I should thank you or thank myself. I'm like, of course you got to thank me. I'm the one who asked that question. But I routinely send him back. And now he's starting to get annoyed because now he just needs someone to talk to. But now he's getting annoyed that every time he asks me a question, I just send a question back, like, write this down. And I found that for myself too. You're right that reaching out to a mentor or write an email, by the time I finish the email, I already know the answer.
Clarity.
But I hit send anyway, with the last line being like, hey, by the way, if you read through that, thanks, but I don't want anything from you. I think I answered my question. But just to let you know where I am. Has that been your case too? Like, do you send people back to do their own work, or?
I think probably, like, if I take the case of the mentor that we talked about a little while ago, where we worked on business development, it's like meeting one.
Yeah.
I knew what subject I wanted to talk to. I knew what I wanted to dive into. And it was so helpful that when I come back the next meeting, I'm like, these are the things I've thought about. I just want to talk to you about them, right?
Nice.
It's like it started me on a path, and then I've been able to work forward, which is what sounds like also the same with your mentee, right?
Yeah.
You asked that original great question, and now there's a process for how to think about it.
It's true.
How to frame it.
I'm still looking for examples for myself, and maybe you have a better head on your shoulders than I do right now. I'm not a very good mentee in the sense that I do overthink asking that right question to the mentor to a point where I don't end up asking it. So I'm not a good mentee because I don't seek mentorship. And this has been something I've been working on for a long time. For example, I started playing guitar. I didn't hire a teacher. I just went online, looked at tabs, and I spent 6 years trying to learn it. I could have learned it in 6 months. If I had just asked someone to do it for me, like help me out. I'm trying to change that. One of the reasons is I started this podcast and get to ask questions and see how you're thinking about things. So Alina and I watched this after the show, and we're like, oh, okay, what if we tried that? Like, maybe we can call Saleh again. Well, let's call MC. She talked about this thing. She might know something about it. Let me just ask her. But I do wanna get a lot better at it. What would you say, apart from being prepared as a mentee, what else do mentees owe mentors? So, and I say, you said it was a give and take relationship, right? Sometimes you're not in a position to help out your mentor, right? Not in any significant way. But what can you do for them to show your thanks, or, until you can bring the karma back, until you can complete the full circle? What can a mentee do to kind of nurture that relationship and make sure that they're well and help them out?
So I think it starts with the structure, right? Like, one thing we always say in EO is that when you have a mentor, you need to be in charge of scheduling the meetings and work around their time. Come to their office. If they give you homework, you do it. You get it back to them. Don't be chased. If you're going for coffee, you pay the bill, right? In all of those cases, you may not be helping them out with something that they're working through, but you're showing respect. And that's huge, right? That already goes a long way. So I wouldn't worry about the fact that you may not have something today to give back. It's that you've taken the relationship seriously. You've shown the gratitude. You've shown, that they're invested in the relationship.
Yeah, it's always nice to hear when your mentee has had success and when you share that. But along the lines, like, can I pick your brain for coffee? Let's meet here. It's like, no. The mentor decides when, where, how often, and all that kind of stuff. Cool. From mentors to partners.
Okay.
The thing with partners is, at least in my mind, sometimes 1 + 1 is 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 is 3. And sometimes 1 + 1 is 0. Where, and for Alina and I, it oscillates between all three of them. So 1 + 1 is 0 is when we kind of group think, and we think the exact same, and we're not challenging each other, and we're making the wrong decision. And it doesn't matter if there are two of us, we're both making. So it's 1 + 1 is 0. And sometimes where 1 + 1 is 3, where we created something that individually we could not create. For the most part, where 1 + 1 is 2. How is your relationship with your partners. You mentioned that you're the only working partner. So how does that work in terms of divvying up stress, responsibilities? Like, is that directly based on just financial motives and shares, or is there something else outside that kind of creates the separation? Like, this is me, this is what I do, this is you, this is what you do. How has that evolved over the last 8 years for you?
So I think you can think of them as investors in the business, right? And I'm the managing partner of the business, but they're much more than that. We call ourselves a family of friends. So the stress is mine, but it's my job to identify when there is stress and stress that I can't work through and I can't control and I need help. And sometimes that help is them and that conversation with them. And sometimes it's their network. There's a solution out there that they can help me to access. So for us, it's like most of the time it's 1 + 1 is 3, because when I come with something, they add their value, then we add something else to the equation. It becomes much better than it was originally.
Yeah. And what is it in terms of partners convincing each other on a certain direction? How often do you guys meet and discuss, or are there only emergency meetings? But do you have something regular that you have?
Yeah, we have board meetings on a quarterly basis, but the phone conversations are pretty much once a week, I would say. So the conversation's always going. The WhatsApps are every other day. So there's open line of communication.
And how do you find you guys have learned to nudge each other in the right direction? So, there's always going to be a case where one partner is feeling strongly. And I'm asking this completely selfishly, right? Like Alina and I, we get into these things where like, no, I need to bring her on to my side, because I'm feeling it, as you said, I'm feeling it in my gut. And Alina gets the same way too. She feels much stronger. She's much more in contact with her gut than I am. And she feels really strongly, but she's not able to articulate it really well. So I, as also her life partner, am able to pick out. But if I were a business partner, maybe I wouldn't be able to pick it out. So how have you been nudged by your partners on a certain thing? Like, what kind of case works for you? Like, are you asking for their logic? Are you just waiting for their direction? And on the flip side too, if you're feeling something strongly, like I'm in the business, guys, like I've been talking to customers all day, and like, this is it. How does that dynamic work? And you're laughing because there's stories here.
They know how to get me on their side. They've worked with me for like 15 years. So I've identified a pattern where they go, "You're doing such a great job in this area. Have you considered this?" So you're like already in that happy mind space. "Oh, I'm doing a great job," right? So then they open me up and then throw something in. There have also been times where there has to have been a difficult conversation, but to not make it personal is so important, right? Like, why would this make sense for the business? Why does this help the business? So trying to take our personal relationship out of it. This isn't between you and me. This is between us and the business. And trying to think of the business as its own person kind of often helps when you're at these moments that are difficult, because then you immediately care for other people. So care for your business as if it were a person, and then it somehow doesn't make it like an attack on myself or something else, right? It's what makes sense for the business. So look, we've just known each other so long, so we that kind of works.
Was it always like this? Or is this developed over time?
I would say so, but trust just becomes so much stronger over years. And particularly when you've had some really, really hard moments and you've worked through them together and seen how supportive they are in those dark moments. Like we talked about very early on, that my father passed away in November. So there were some months where my mind wasn't in the business, and they were so forgiving. They were amazing. Right? And when you know that they're there for you in those moments, then you can make anything else work.
Yeah. No, that's really good to hear that you have that kind of a crew. I know a friend who's come on the podcast too. He's in business with his childhood friend, and they're almost like reading each other's minds, right? Like they'd be hanging out at a shisha cafe and just like know what the other person's thinking. Like, yeah, let's do that tomorrow. It's like, how did you know what I was thinking? But yes, let's do that tomorrow. Just diving a bit into the logic versus gut thing in these kind of decisions, especially when other people are involved. Because if you're a solopreneur, you have a gut feeling, you go with it, kind of run. You have no accountability in that sense apart from yourself. and sometimes translating that to logic, like spreadsheets. This is, as you said, business is a different person. If they were this, and you're making a logical argument and a reasoning. So how do you marry both of them, the logic versus gut? Like, what kind of thinking works for you?
So in the case of my husband, who's also working in the business, he's a lot more logical. So he would always go like, okay, your gut says this today, but this could go wrong, or have you considered that? And I'm like, why are you killing my idea? I'm so excited. He's like, we got to think through it. I'm like, yes, I know, you're right. I am a spreadsheet girl. I came from banking. So a lot of things end up in a spreadsheet, but the sort of in between is right. You've got the idea, you bring the team in, just start like sticking it all on Post-its and see how it comes together. Like for me, it's magic when everyone in the room is contributing, and then you narrow down and you prioritize, and then you stick that in to Asana or whatever else you use, right? And that's then becomes the logic, the actual steps that you're going to take to what started it as a gut feeling.
Yeah. Do you cap the downside too? Like you're making movement into a new direction. Like you assign the first task in Asana, and I can almost see you giddy, being like, let's just do the first one. Let's just do the first one. Let's just get started. And
Come on, guys.
Let's see. But then how do you think about capping the downside of a somewhat, that's not even a fully risky idea, but started as a gut, logic was applied to it. You got started.
So we have an amount of money a month that we put towards new ideas.
Like experimentation.
Yeah, experimentation. And that is the amount of money that we have to do that. And so if there are several steps, then that money, we need 3 months to execute it, because that's how much risk we're taking. Then that's what we'll do. We'll go step by step.
What are the amounts like for your experimentations, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, like right now, easily 10,000 dirhams we would spend a month on what we consider like new product development or experimentation, right? So if 1 month we're buying a blast freezer to experiment in some direction, and it's a 30,000 dirham investment, then let's make that a 3-month project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has that always been the case? Have you always had that experimentation budget?
I think in the times, no, there's not always been the budget. So there have been moments where we've overspent, and there's been moments where we've not spent at all, and then you don't see the progress in the business. So it's this, like we talked earlier about still having like the spark in your business and feeling like there's magic. So that's like the amount of money that we need to continue to be creating and come up with these new ideas.
Yeah. I like that. So the other cost of doing these experimentation, there's a money cost, which is, highly measurable. The other is time.
Yeah.
Do you have a time budget to work on experimentation, or?
It's a great point. We don't have a time budget. No.
So it's not like, so Google does this, right? Like 20% of your week can be allotted to things that are not your job, which is 8 hours, which is one full work day, which is Friday usually for people. Yeah. So I've gone to Alina a few times. I'm like, why don't we make Fridays our like experiment days in a week? And we never get to it because we're just too busy.
Tired by the end of the week.
Like the juices are there, but sometimes it happens over the weekends too. But I would like to have it more structured, but putting that money thing to it and putting that first task in Asana probably does that for you. But so then these experimentations are just a general part of anyone's day-to-day work. Like it's another project for them. It's not like a side thing.
Yeah, they have separate meetings. So they're separate like team time dedicated to them, but yeah, it's part of their jobs, and we put the deadline slightly longer than we would for something that's like high priority, so they can figure out where in their weeks they have time to work on it, because we have weeks that are insane and then weeks that are quieter, and so that way I don't like to micromanage people's time. Let them decide when is the right moment to work on something.
Do you find that the spark kind of disappears in the course of running the experiment? Let's say you had a busy 2 weeks, you just didn't have time, and then you look at it and you're like, oh, I don't think we should do that anymore.
It evolves. Sometimes it evolves, but we're also in a really tangible business, right? We're playing with fruits, we're playing with healthy snacks. So like the fact that you can try things and keep iterating and like really feel the product and think of it in terms of a consumer, like would I enjoy this? Would this spark me to be healthier and happier in my everyday life? Sometimes it's like moving from paper to trying it, and even if it's wrong, it's like, okay, I get what we need to do next.
Yeah. When do you trash something that is obviously not working? Like what's your sign for being like, you know what, we've dumped money into this good experiment, we now know what not to do? or let's not touch this until we have some experts on, or let's not touch this for another few years. Do you find it easy to kill your babies like that, like the idea babies that you have, or do they all kind of make it through?
No, they don't all make it through. If it gets to a point where we've done everything that we can internally, the investment would either be so huge that right now we don't know definitively that that's a good idea, or we don't have the right resource to bring this to something that we're super proud of. At that point, we probably would hold the idea, because ultimately it has to be something that we're proud to add to the range. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. But sometimes we do play around, because we've got about 80,000 followers on Instagram, maybe even 90 now. And sometimes we don't have a fully baked idea, but we'll post a picture of it and see if there's engagement.
Just a mock-up.
Yeah. So see if there's engagement, or people ask us about it. And then it kind of just gives us a little insight into, are we moving in the right direction or not?
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. And if you don't get engagement, do you think that's a sign for the market, or just an off day on social media?
No, it's a sign.
Yeah.
It's a sign.
Well, that's a tough conversation to have then. Like, guys, we're killing the project as like customers, or do you kind of like go a few more steps and
it's not the only step we take, but it would factor into things.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that's the power of having 80 to 90,000 people. Like, you can get signals. From the market. Right?
I feel like saves is the biggest signal. If you're looking at Instagram metrics, okay, whatever people have saved the most tends to be what ends up selling the most. So, at least in our business.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Because it might not be the right moment in time for them to consider purchasing it, but it's something that they're inspired by or want to think about again later.
That's smart, actually. Yeah, just looking at the number of saves, like it gave them the good feelings to be like, hey, I'd like to look at this again, even though none of us look at our saved items. It's like, but it's good intentions. It's a good signal.
It made it onto your short list. That's good enough for now.
I know. People don't give away saves for no reason. I hardly save anything, ever. My trick is to share it on my WhatsApp. Like I have a WhatsApp conversation going with myself as a store keep for, like, stuff I found interesting on the internet. And once in a week, I'll just kind of go through. I'm like, why did I share this? This is irrelevant. I'm like, oh, in the moment it felt good. But no, that's really good. In terms of validating the idea, you said there's more things you do. So part of that 10,000 dirham budget, would that go also into validation, like doing customer activations or something like that? Or is it all product development budget? No,
I'll give you a live example that we're working on. So we've never had a retail presence. We've only ever been an e-commerce shop and deliver direct to consumer, whether home or office. So one of the things this year that we've decided is to actually see what it would be like to have our own store. So we're
this year,
yeah. So we're starting with a pop-up in Times Square Mall in June, and we have designed this super cute cart that looks like a watermelon. Like it's green on the outside and it opens up and it's pink on the inside. It just brings you happiness, right?
Yeah.
But it's our first time doing something like that. So part of this budget, this new product development budget, is putting some marketing spend against that to actually make people aware that it's going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like one budget for whatever is required to get that thing done.
Yeah.
Awesome. How many of those do you do in a single time? I'm really interested in experiments because I do want to implement a lot of them. And you have, I'm going to take the context that you have a larger team than we do, but what is a good amount for you in your context? How many should you do? So we have
3 verticals: home, corporate, and popsicles is now its own business. So within any one of those, not more than one.
And what percentage split of the revenue are those 3?
About 40, 20.
And everyone gets one experiment at any given time, which could be as long as 3 months or as short as 1 month or 6 months. Or
some of them are longer term.
Okay. And once the experiment is done, how does it become a real thing? Is there a transition where it becomes because I'm trying to see when the next experiment comes in, right? Like you're doing something for home, experiment goes through, successful or unsuccessful. Let's say successful. Does that turn into a real thing and then it makes room for more experimentation, or how does that transition look?
So we think of the kind of management team as coming up with the ideas of what we're going to experiment. And I feel like the moment that it gets handed to operations to improve the process, then it's no longer in the experimentation bucket. We're now in the optimization bucket. And that's a different part of the business that's working through it.
Yeah. I love it. I love the whole sound of this. This is great. Like why are we not doing this? This is so smart. Do you get overwhelmed with the amount of experiments you want to do?
Sometimes.
Where do you also store them in Asana somewhere, like potential experiments? Is there like a tab for that?
There's probably a Pinterest board for every idea. It's because my ideas are more visual in nature.
How do you prioritize? How do you choose the right experiment?
We prioritize based on what the customers are asking us. So if there are more requests in one area, then that is what we prioritize.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not based on like potential target market size or like what some other company is doing, or are they catch up plays, or are they like, we got to do something new kind of play? You look at the customers, just like what they're asking for.
Yeah. Okay. So because we've grown such a big customer base, so rather listen to who we're already servicing. Yeah. So I'll give you one example that worked particularly well, and this is some years ago now in the business, but going back, I had a neighbor who was a customer it was her son's birthday, and she asked me, can you make a cake out of fruit, because we're trying to go healthy. So at that time, the kitchen made a watermelon cake, and they just played around, right? And they gave each other feedback, and they started like just perfecting the thing, and delivered it to my neighbor's house. Her son absolutely loved it. We happened to snap a really good picture. We put it on Instagram. So this was one of these cases where we just tested. It went into the hundreds of saves, and we knew this was something viable. And so we put a ton of energy into that. And today I think we have something like 15 varieties of watermelon cake. So one cake turned into so many. And what I didn't understand at the time was it was a really fundamental change in the business, because before we were delivering only to you as an employee or to you in your home. Now we were delivering a cake, a moment in which you're sharing with others you love.
Yeah.
And so you're spreading the message of Fruitful Day to a group of people now, not just you're not just this person sitting next to you. And so suddenly it's not just maybe you taking a picture, but your friends and your family taking a picture and telling others about it. And so at that point, there was a huge like moment in time where we saw phenomenal growth in the home segment, because people were sharing the message of Fruitful Day. But it started exactly the way that we talked about, just a bit of experimentation, listening to customers, seeing that this was viable, and then growing from there.
And it's not that risky to make a watermelon cake for one party, right?
It's not risky, right? We have a setup, we have a central kitchen in DIP, and so we can keep iterating in there and experimenting.
I love it. I just love how your business operates on the inside. Like I'm sure I'm going to learn more about it in the next hour or so, and then when we meet too. But this is giving me goosebumps. Like this whole idea of how you seem to have like a fixed mindset to have an open mindset. Like having this experimentation requires this kind of diligence, and like, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we grow. Because I don't want to get trapped in my own business like I did in my job, where there was no learning, there's nothing new, everything under the sun has already been taught to me, and I'm just kind of repeating it as a drone on and on again. Keeps life in the business, right? Like keeps it alive.
My husband would say it needs to come with some structure, which is why just like you and Alina, right? We're yin and yang, and that's great, right? Like he'll tell me enough ideas for now.
That's I did this whole. I became her coach for the first 3 months of this year, because we were going like in all these kind of directions. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take that coach thing where I'm just going to figure out priorities, and I'm going to state them, and I'm going to challenge you on everything that you come up with. If they don't fit in these 4 boxes, like we have 4 goals. One is to get more leads for our business. One is to close more clients. So lead generation, conversion. We need to streamline our operations, which means we need to have the best team at the best profit margin possible. And then the last one, which was to give her more time back. Like I really want to give Alina more time back. She spends a lot of time on the business. So I want to work on systems and things that can help her take her time back. And every time she came with them, like, does whatever you're saying, does this fit in any of these 4 boxes? We're not talking about it. We're not talking about it. Like, these are the 4 things we're talking about, and we're not talking about anything else. She's like, well, what about this? I'm like, we'll get to that once we solve these 4 problems. If I feel, and if you feel that we're 50 to 60% away through making these things like very rock solid and very, as with your experimentations, like they have a number, they have a budget, they have a time limit, then we can talk about it. And that's really helped us. It's helped our anxiety, actually. So when we go to sleep, we're like, yeah, these are the 4 goals. Or when we wake up, we're like, no, these are the 4 goals. Instead of like, all the things we can do. We're free now. It's flexible. We can do so much. But
the one thing that's interesting about your 4 goals is 2 I would put in the growth bucket and 2 I would put in the efficiency bucket.
Yeah.
I have found in business that I've not always been effective when we're trying to do both at the same time. So there have been periods where we've taken a complete pause and just said, we're working on efficiency for a period of time, no distractions. How can we do more with less?
Yeah.
It's probably the less fun times, but actually you're more profitable at the end of it. So then it leads to more fun for later.
Yeah. No, it's hard to do all of them together. So when we have our weekly meeting, I've structured our weekly meeting doc into these 4 pillars as well. But we made the decision that we might be better off working one goal at a time, in the sense that we set up projects for that, and we have movement on those projects, and we have our next steps mapped out for at least 3 months.
Okay.
So for example, the first box, the lead gen box, how do we improve our own lead generation for our own business? Which is funny because we are a lead generation agency for other businesses, but we are really good at doing it for clients, not so much for ourselves. So we came up with 8 projects that we need to work on. And there are different things like set up lead magnets. What are the lead magnets going to be? Niche into a certain different sector, so our message is a bit more powerful to like one person versus everything to 1,000 people. And we have those 8, and now we have movement in those. Alina keeps talking about like, hey, but our sales process, like our 3rd discovery call that happens at X, like can we talk about 1 first? Once I'm happy with like a 60% thing, then we'll go to the next cycle, which is how do we improve our sales cycle? How do we shorten it? How do we make it more, get more pizzazz? How do we close? Like conversion rate needs to be higher. Currently it's like 20%. I need it to be 35, 40% by the end of summer. So by September, it needs to be there. We need to be, anyone who's had a meeting with us, 4 out of 10 need to close. And then we work on that. Then in between, we'll start working on the upper. But I don't know how to do it all at once, because we've never been able to. In our mind, we think we can do it all at once. Alina's like this. She's like, we can do it all. We can do it all. Let's just work 12 hours a day. And I'm like, that's off the table. I'm not working 12 hours a day.
That doesn't work with bucket number 4 there. Give Alina time back.
Well, that's why it's the last one, because I feel like if I take her time off, we won't get to the first 3 goals either, right? But yeah, are you always like, between you and your husband, do you have the same kind of mechanics in that sense? Like I'm hearing similarities in terms of like your passion. Like let's say in terms of time spent on the business, I do everything to spend the minimal time on my business because I want to be efficient. I want to use my hour like properly. Alina is a bit more laxed with her time, albeit she does work longer hours than me. Are you guys the same in that way?
Every week is different because the needs of the kids and the business are different. So like I try to be really flexible about it and open-minded. But the one thing that my husband is always working with me on is I don't mind you spending time, but the time has to be valuable time. If you're in the operations, like what are you doing in my space? Like then you need to figure out how to hand that over. You can ask the question and put it on someone else's list. But as long as your time is spent on the things that we've identified create value and that you're good at, then spend the time. But don't spend the time doing things that shouldn't be in your corner.
How did you get a slap on the wrist for spending time on something you shouldn't be spending on?
It's a work in progress, okay?
I just give the looks to Alina when she's like, so I was working on this. I'm like, you're working on what? Did we decide we're working on that?
so then I go, but was it in Asana?
Yeah, we use Notion. I'm like, if it's not a Notion, then it's not a real thing that you're working. If it's in your notes app, like you're not, like, but some good things come out of it too. When she's rebelling against me and really going, I know her gut is strong, and then I take note, and then we kind of work it to make it reality. Like that's my job. My job typically is to turn her ideas into reality. That's my role. I'm not an ideas guy. I've never been. I'm creative, but like not with ideas, not with 0 to 1 ideas. So as I mentioned, like I just want to see her turn something, but like at the same time provide some constraints if those are necessary. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but this is what I am right now. We'll see. Time will tell.
Sounds like you're on a good path.
I hope so. I really hope so. And it's gonna take a while for me to know, but I'll have results to share because I'm living a public life now. So you guys will know if I'm not running this podcast in 3 years and saying it's not my first business anymore, it's my second career, and then things didn't work out. But alas, failure is not an option. I wanted to ask you on a different note now. What are some inspirational businesses for you? Like what businesses do you admire? Regardless of, you consuming business content like magazines or newspapers or stories or biographies or whatever, like what kind of businesses stand out to you? Not necessarily that you're trying to model them, but they've held some place in your mind and in your heart. Like I'd prefer local examples, but it could be from anywhere in the world.
I'm going to start with a global example because it's so clear to me. There's a company in the States called Olipop. Have you ever come across it?
No.
It's healthier soda. It helps you with your digestion. It's lower in sugar, but it still tastes good. The branding is happy. It's healthy. It's fun. And I just love what they've done for soda. And in fact, I believe this year they sold more root beer than A&W, I think. They sold more root beer than A&W because they managed to get that many people over to the healthy side or the healthier side. And for me, that's like such an inspiration because they have fun doing it. It's creative. The quality is there, but they're actually making an impact on people's daily lives. Like, wow, what an example.
Yeah.
So I love them. They bring me a lot of happiness. On a local level, gosh, there are so many businesses and entrepreneurs organization that
tell me about some that stick out to you.
So like Tribe, have you come across Tribe Studio? No, they're in El Cuz. They're a furniture store and accessories, but all sustainably sourced and just like such high quality in the way that they think about what like the materials they use, the way they just curate the collection. For me, it's that love that's been put into the business that I like. For me, things are emotional. So when I see that in a business, but the business is still successful, like you can get the happiness and the love together with the scaling of the business. Then I'm like, that's a wow moment for me.
Yeah, like a business does need to have a soul.
Yeah.
Right, for it to really like have goosebumps on you. Like I feel like this way, and I hope they're always like this. I feel like this way about Kareem, and the way I've been here with them, and like every interaction with them is filled with soul. Even when something goes wrong, like you can tell a business's quality when something goes wrong and how they take care of it, more than the number of features and the things that they have. Again, free shout out for all these guys, right? Not paying us, just doing shout outs for no reason. Okay.
So what's an example of when something's gone wrong with Kareem?
So something's gone wrong with Kareem, an order that didn't make it on time, whether it's through their groceries or something was completely... This was the time when they had all the other groceries on their app. So they had to take responsibility for Shortrams and for the aswaks. And now they don't. They just kind of like go on, they're doing their own thing. I would log a ticket. I would get a call within 20 minutes informing me only that we've received your complaint and we're looking at it. I don't have an answer right now, but bear with me. Someone will call you back. 20 minutes after that, I get a call like, listen, we're working on it. We've figured out that it was not your fault and it's the vendor's fault. We're working through a solution. The first thing I'm going to try and do is get your money back. And they followed up for 3 days after that.
They took it seriously.
They called me and they left me emails summarizing what they talked about too. And they're a B2C business. Yeah. They have millions of customers. I'm one number. They call me by my name. And they make me feel like, Mr. Name, we're really sorry. And like a week later, after the whole thing is resolved, by the way, you had this issue. it's all resolved. Just want to make sure nothing popped up after that again. Like, what have I done to you? I know I'm a premium subscriber, but like still, like I pay you 19 dirhams a month. Like that's not a magical number. I'm not a big part of your revenue, but they just make me feel good about that. Plus their logo with the smiley face on it. Green is my favorite color. Like I have green everything right here too.
The brand resonates with you.
It does. The ads that they do, they're really fun and funny. I really like that. So there's soul in that office building of Careem, whatever it is. There's people with soul in there trying to make this something. Versus Uber, for example, black logo, or Uber car, come with the driver, and a lot of things that they do with their riders too. With Careem, the way that looks after their riders is not how other companies may look after their riders. So just the whole thing has soul to it, I feel.
It sounds like their brand promise is lived at every level.
100%. They have that attitude.
Yeah, that's not easy to achieve.
For such a large business.
Yeah.
They're not a small business, right? For them to look after so many people like that, the flexibility they have with all kinds of people as well, it's great. I love it. And they take care of their people, which is great. Now I have a brother-in-law who's working at Careem too, so I'm going to find more stories about how it operates inside, and someday get Mudassar Sheikha on, who's the founder of Careem as well. Hopefully he comes on.
I don't think he has a choice anymore.
You got to come, Mudassar. We're coming for you. My first business. I'll send you an email. Let's talk about funding and investors. I know you bootstrapped your business for a while, right? So how many years did you bootstrap it for now then?
We bootstrapped from 2015 to we got funded between 2019, early 2020. So 4 years roughly.
Why go for funding, firstly, if there's any specific reason? And secondly, how has your life changed after that? How has business and life changed?
Yeah, so we went for funding because we were at a pivotal moment in our business where we were either we had proof of concept, it was working, but in order to really scale, we needed to leap forward, and it took an amount of capital. So in our case, we were in a tiny facility and we needed to move into a much bigger facility. And in order to fit that out and to make the move, we needed a substantial amount of money. And on top of that, we felt like we really knew what worked for what customer. And so we wanted to put a lot behind the sales and marketing of that particular division, which at the time was corporates. Now, that was end of 2019. We were going to invest heavily into corporates. We all know what happened in 2020. We talked about that earlier. So that was the reason. We felt like taking in some money, we could create something much bigger, and the opportunity for all of us would be much bigger. Were
you in a grow or die phase?
No, we would have just coasted. And
okay.
I didn't start this business to coast, right? I've got bigger ambitions than that, or we all as a group have bigger ambitions than that. Mm-hmm. So we were able to successfully fundraise towards the end of 2019, execute the move into the new facility. Yeah. I think we moved over like, I kind of remember we dispatched the last box out of the old facility at like 3 p.m. and by 5 p.m. we were operational in the next kitchen. It was crazy. It was nuts. And we're a 24-hour a day business, so we had to like keep operating in the night. But it happened. That was one of those cases where my husband's skill set really came into became so important because the gut wouldn't have done that. That took meticulous planning. So we moved over and we started our new facility. We wanted to really grow more into healthy snacking on top of fruit, servicing many more corporates. Of course, we've talked about the pivot that we had to make in 2020 towards homes, but the business wouldn't be where it is today without that money. We have grown a lot as a result of it, not necessarily in the ways that we planned for the reasons we've outlined, but we have a much stronger business now, and we still have we have a lot of plans on where we're still going to go. Now we're kind of back into the corporate mindset. Yeah. Okay. In terms of you asked, the other question you asked was, how's my life changed? Yeah. So the way that we fundraise is slightly different, right? We went through Eureka, which is an equity crowdfunding platform. Okay. So we actually have 40 investors that each gave different size tickets. Mm-hmm. But as a collective, like the shareholding is quite split. So the board is actually still the same partners as it was previously.
Okay.
So
they don't get any voting rights, these investors.
Right. So I feel like I have a lot more cheerleaders, a lot more people I can call for help. But I can still maintain the creativity and the way that I ran my business before. So I was able to both raise funds, but keep what was important to me about the business.
What's the name of this platform?
It's called Eureka.
Eureka.
It's,
and what do you get, like a message board on there where people can hear from you? Like, how do you keep your investors up to date? How do they stay in touch with you?
So it's a newsletter that we send every half a year. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they can write back and ask questions or request a call. Yeah.
Huh. And anything significantly good come out of any conversations with any of these investors?
Yeah, so some of our investors are in Saudi Arabia. Right now, we're only in the UAE. We have plans to move part of our business into Saudi. Maybe if I come back next year, I can talk to you about that.
Yeah. Is this before the pop-up in Times Square or after?
After, we got to get that done first. So, having someone on the ground who's part of your business, who's giving you, like, who's in your corner, it's a big deal.
A lot of investors from Saudi or just the one?
No, we have a few.
Okay.
I wouldn't say a lot, but a couple. Yeah.
Well, that's what I've heard about Saudi Arabia. Everyone keeps telling me, you guys gotta go. But from a lot of people that have been doing business there already, they say, like, if you do go, you gotta go fully in the sense that you need to have presence there. You cannot operate the satellite Dubai and selling to Saudi thing. It doesn't get looked upon favorably. With if especially if you're in the B2B business side, you need to have local presence there. So that kind of, we're going for our first ever conference to Saudi at the end of this month, just to scope that out and see. One of our clients is going and he's taking us along. We're tagging along with him, and he's like, we'll make you some introductions and we'll see. I've never been to Saudi Arabia. Like, the last time I went was when I was 4 years old.
Oh, a lot's changed since then.
I feel like it has.
Probably don't remember anyway.
No,
Are you going to Riyadh?
To Riyadh, yes. Have you been?
Yeah.
Good place?
Yeah.
Where should we stay?
I can't even remember the name of the place I stayed. It escapes me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll figure something out. We'll probably be crashing around where our clients are crashing anyway and go to the conference. You talked about ambitions. You said you're not building this business to coast. You have bigger ambitions. Can I talk about that for a second? I want to break down what that visioning and thinking looks like for MC. Is she having a cup of tea, sitting on a sofa, just staring into the wall, thinking big thoughts? Or do you have a more structured way that I can borrow? Because one of the things that I'm constantly looking to improve is thinking big and thinking ambitiously. I'm not a coaster by any means, but at the same, like, if you put two people in front of me, coaster and ambitious thinker, I fall somewhere in the middle, and I'd rather move towards the ambition side. So what does your visioning look like? Do you have a Pinterest board?
I have a Pinterest board for everything.
I picked that up.
In terms of, like, the thing that I think Fruitful Day does so uniquely is it gets people, and if this come up a few times, is it gets people excited about making the healthy choice. And I don't think enough companies are invested in making healthy so exciting and, like, something that people are like, wow, that one looks cool, I want that one, but it is actually better for you. So, like, my vision is that you walk into the grocery store and you see Fruitful Day products and you're excited to pick that product, and then it's actually also good for you. We would love to be throughout the Middle East. Now we've got, a long way to go, but in running all of these different experiments, I can see we're continuously moving towards that vision. Yeah.
And how often do you sit in vision? Do you kind of like make a vision for a year and then let it evolve over the year? Do you have like a kind of, I'm going to go away for a few days, take a thinking break? Do you do any of that?
We do a yearly offsite, the partners, and that's usually where we do our strategic thinking. Yeah.
When was the last one?
So we always have them at the end of the year. Yeah.
Where did you go?
So not very exciting.
To the Palm.
Studio City.
Yeah. And is it a full day? Is it a full weekend?
It's a full day, yeah.
Full day, and you kind of plan an agenda out before?
Yeah, so we will start the first part of the day of just like taking check of where we are. And we try to bring in the different parts of the company, whether it's accounting or marketing, to kind of present on their area, and then bring all the partners to like that we have the same understanding of the business. And then the afternoon is about brainstorming and then prioritizing.
Huh. It's like there's a lot of Post-its that day, I'm guessing.
Post-its, yes.
And a lot of fruits and
Yes,
snacks.
of course. Yeah.
You guys don't have crackers on the table, do you?
So no, we don't. I actually remember one a couple of years ago where we talked about the popsicles as something that we wanted to get into, and we ordered all sorts of popsicles and ice creams, and that was just like us talking about, yeah, but this doesn't exist in the market, and we could do that better. And then like now it's its own business. So
it's 20% of your business now.
Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of brain freezes that day if you ordered a bunch of popsicles.
There was a lot of melting popsicles too, because it's like I can't eat anymore.
Well, that's why you do it in December, not the summer.
Yeah,
you have
that's
more
right.
melted ones. Very random question. You have Fruitful Day. It's working well. It seems almost destined that you're working on fruits. Has there, over the course of doing your business, that you wanted to do another business that has nothing to do with this business, but you felt like you had the right skills, you knew the right people, you could get into that? Have you played with other ideas in your mind? Have you almost got started with something? What's another business you would do?
I did get started with something else. It's called Shake Your Plants.
Shake Your Plants.
Shake Your Plants. So it's also in the health space, but a totally different business. It's instant drinks, which are healthy for you. Interestingly, I have an amazing partner in that business, Justine, and we brainstormed and worked together for about a year. And then at some point I had a realization that business, the idea was really amazing, but I didn't have the time to invest into it. Like if I was going to stay the partner, I was going to hold it back because I already have all of these other commitments. Fruitful Day is growing. And so I'm still invested in that business, but I'm no longer a co-founder of this business. But
so
it was
now
like,
you're not the working partner.
no, exactly.
You're the one who gets updates.
I'm the one that gets updates, right? But yeah, I mean, I thought I could, one of those cases, I thought I could do it all. But then when you start doing too many things, you stop doing things well. And I was being taken away also from what makes me happy in the business, because then you don't have the time for the creativity if you're being pulled between one thing and another thing. So it was the best decision for Fruitful Day for myself personally, but not an easy one, because I thought I could be one of these people that was founding multiple businesses at once, but maybe later in life, not at the moment.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because I have the same feelings, right? Like I feel like if we look around us, especially, let's look at the EO crew.
Yeah.
And I have friends too, second business, third business, shifting between them, sleeping 6 hours a day, just have family and kids and everything. But yet, what is it about these people that can do that? Because I don't know what it is. Like, is it a lack of focus for me, or is it like I'm the kind of person, or I try to tell myself that if I do one thing, I'll do it really well. If I do two things, I'll half-ass them both. If I do three things, forget about it. What is it about these people that can do that? And when you said maybe not now, maybe later on in life, what needs to click into place for that to happen?
So I think I realized at that moment that I was still very much like, yes, I was working on the business, but I was still in the business. And until the day that you have somebody who's like a really like who is your deputy CEO and who can take over for large periods of time, you're not ready to do that. I have seen people successfully have many businesses, but then they generally have a CEO within each
like
business.
An operator of a business.
Well, but also a visionary, right? Like that will think like them, that will think like an entrepreneur while they're not there. So I Fruitful Day wasn't at that stage. I wasn't at that stage. So it wasn't the right moment. Also, I have 2 young kids. So it's also like deciding what's important to you, and back to happiness, right?
Yes.
Those kids are a big part of my happiness. Spending quality time with them is a big part of my happiness. So if I'm going to take time away from Fruitful Day, that's where I should dedicate it, to my husband and to my kids. 100%.
And those priorities change over the seasons of life, right?
Yeah, they do.
You don't always have to be the same kind of entrepreneur. Like, it has to mold in accordance to which season of life you're in. So Lena and I, we've been considering children as well. And that changes our 5-year plan. Not that we stick to our 5-year plan. We just put it there just because everyone has to. in honesty, we can't plan the business more than 90 days at a time sometimes. We're trying to get better at that. But yeah, the moment we start talking about that, all these business plans go out of the way because priorities change. And like, I would want her to spend more time with the goal number 4. The reason that's there is it's actually in alignment with when we plan to, expand our family. Because if all of these things kind of work, then that is like, hey, you get to do that. Cool. Interesting. I want to talk about
kids is a gut thing. I don't think you can plan for kids. Like they're just like every day's chaos, you never know what's going to hit you. Just do the best that you can.
I know. Is there a return policy?
There is no return policy.
So we've been, it might be, for us, it might be a bit different. Like it could be that thing because we're looking for adoption. We've been trying to have babies for a while and it's not working out. We had our first miscarriage about 6 years ago, and ever then it's been hard. So we've been looking at options for adoption, and they're pretty simple and easy, especially that our families are from Pakistan. We can kind of go there in a few months. We can have a new family almost like that. So we're kind of more in control of the time in that sense. But you're right, you just know when you can and want to, and like the next day you'll be on a plane and go grab yourself one. I'll take the green one, please. I'm joking. Okay, I want to talk about EO for a little bit too. From what I've heard, and we've only been part of EOA for less than a year now. There's some really committed people in the whole thing. So I really love it, and I love the brand promise kind of lives within its own people too. What we're trying to understand also is like EO is also doing things for the local business scene, right? Like just to like improve. What are some of the things that other entrepreneurs can take advantage of, or what's the EO presence in Dubai right now? What is it doing outside its core offering?
So there's about 150 plus members in Entrepreneurs Organization, all of whom own a business here in the UAE. Around 30 of those are accelerators. So they're running businesses somewhere between $250,000 to $1 million. So for anyone who's in the process of scaling their business, I wouldn't say starting, I would specifically say scaling. That program is phenomenal. Fruitful Day was part of it for 3 years. So that's something that scaling businesses can access. There's also mentorship program. So we talked earlier about accessing mentors. I think EO has a very great structured way to do that, to find people who are really experienced in running businesses here. Yeah,
that's awesome. I encourage more people to check them out. I do have a signal from our studio guy. We've got to start wrapping things up. But before we do, I might do a rapid fire round. Are
we back to the genie?
No, this time. Well, it is close. It is close. The incompetent genie. That's what we'll call it. Can only do one wish out of 3. But are you up for a rapid fire?
Go for it.
You just have to give me your answer without thinking about the answer. Only a moment. You'll get 1 second. Let's start with one really quick. Ice cream or gelato?
Popsicles.
I love it. That was easy, right? So easy. This one's a bit tougher. Exciting flexibility that leads to volatile results, or boring consistency that leads to sure results?
Exciting.
Keep it volatile. I like it. Spa day or shopping?
Spa day.
Even if you have deals? I'll tell you my source afterwards. If you weren't living in Dubai or Switzerland, where would you be?
Bali.
Oh yeah? Have you been recently?
I've been a few times and I'm going again this summer. I can't wait.
Really? We went last year. I didn't like it.
You know?
No.
Okay, we got to swap notes.
We went to Ubud for most of our trip.
Okay.
Is that where your heart is?
There are some amazing places in Ubud.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we need to go with you because I didn't like the version that I saw.
No? Oh.
No. Favorite Netflix show of all time? Well, TV show, not released this year.
Oh gosh. I don't know why Succession comes to mind.
I haven't seen it yet. This is how I make my watch list. I ask people on the show what they're watching. Succession. That's related to business, right?
Yeah. Persuasion, influence, power. Lots of stuff going on there.
Okay. It's gonna be on the docket. One business book. No, not a business book. One book every business owner should read.
Built to Sell.
Is that Jim Collins? No. Built to Sell. Are you building to sell?
I am building a scalable business, and I know at what point that business is big enough for me. And that book helped me to figure that out.
Even if your intention is not.
It doesn't matter.
Or to franchise. Is that a thing in your line of work? Would you be able to franchise this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Part of it.
Okay. Are you working towards that? You can or cannot answer that? Okay. All right. I kind of already asked you this, but if you were to stop working in Fruitful Day or health or shake your plans?
Shake your plans.
Shake
SYP.
your plans. Something not related to food or health.
What would I do?
What would you do? Even if it's a profession or a career, it doesn't have to be a business.
I think I'd secretly be a marketeer.
A marketeer?
Yeah, I would work in marketing.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was my other calling in life.
Did you fall in love with it when you started your business?
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine you loving marketing at Barclays.
No, not at Barclays. Not corporate marketing. Yeah. No. I just love like the marketing side of the business.
What do you love?
I'll come join you guys.
Always welcome. What do you like most about it?
I feel like I love that it merges creativity and planning and listening all into a job. And like when you do it well, it's like that. Wow. Like, look at what I achieved.
It is fun. I can tell you, marketing and sales have both been fun because sales feels to me like a performing arts in a sense that, you have your scripts and you practice in front of a mirror and then you've got characters coming in and then you do that. And then with the marketing, it's more visual storytelling and create stories out of thin air and use that for your benefit. No, it's a good answer. I think I'll be a marketer for life, marketer / sales in life. Anything I were to do.
Not going back to FX.
No, I know too much about it. It got so boring after a certain point. It was like, when you can do your job in your sleep.
Yeah.
And I remember being 27 and I was given charge of a new market and I had to hire my own people and like salespeople and traders and operations people. It was so boring. But we made so much money. Like it was so fun because like you'd make so much money, but like it just got really boring. I used to wear a suit and things, and Lena, I used to come home to Lena and she'd be like, what happened to you? Did you go through a marathon today? I'm like, no, it's just burnt out. And then I haven't worn a suit since then, only at weddings. That's my only rule. I don't wear suits to prospect meetings. No, nothing, not in front of the camera either, just on weddings.
Once you've tasted creativity and like achieving your own thing, it's hard to go back, isn't it?
100%. Like with this podcast too, like if you ask me what I'd be doing at the age of 65, I will be doing a podcast. I don't know what it'll be about. It might not be about business. It might be about happiness in other areas of life, but I will be doing this because I just find this to be it's such organic creativity. Because I told you before we started, I tried to plan the interview, but then I just go with whatever comes. Like half of the questions I asked you weren't on there. Because I love listening, I love learning, I love having making my experiences make sense, and hopefully it does that for you too. Like when you talk about it yourself, it kind of helps you put like some pieces together too. Last question that I would ask before we wrap up, and this could have a bit more context, so it's not rapid fire. And you've talked about your ambitions, but these words can mean anything to you, so these are chosen words. But are you building a big company or a small company?
I'm building a scalable company.
And the way I look at big and small is that the thing that Alina and I struggle with a lot is in marketing world as an agency, and you can relate your experience to this. The pinnacle of it is growth is, 400 people, ivory tower, media city office, top floor, cubicles, and you've got testimonials and awards, and that stuff doesn't excite us. Not one bit. We don't want to build that. So we're not building a big agency. We're building a small yet profitable company for now, at least. That's what our goals are. Is that somewhat similar what we would say to scalable?
So with scalable, I also don't have dreams of managing a whole office full of people, right? And having a big building, but I do have dreams of making impact, larger impact. So when I think small company, I don't want to think small impact. So when I think about scalable, it's like, how can I remain lean but have maximum impact?
Yeah. Well, that's we don't think about impact that much yet, and maybe to our fault. Maybe we're too new and in the survival phase, but I'd like that. I like to think about the impact part more often. Lean part we're down with. We're happy with. We get the messaging. Like lean is always good, more profitable, more efficient. My spreadsheets love that too. But the impact part, and Alina feels this a lot more because I'm in the back end, right? So when COVID hit and we got on the chopping block, but we decided to help. She decided, her idea, again, she's the ideas girl, to help businesses that couldn't afford agencies to learn how to do their own Facebook ads, for example. She set up a course. We worked with Tish Tash and partnered with them to do like a webinar series, and people got in and it was super cheap. Just, you can't hire someone, you just learn to do it yourself. And she wanted to do that impact-based things, but every once in a while we lose the impact and we go back into like, what are we doing? Like, it's not the 3 reasons I told you, starting with business, lifestyle, money, and creativity. Impact is not one of them yet, but I like the inspiration. I'm gonna dwell on that. You've given me a ton to dwell on, actually. I would love to visit your DIP.
Please do.
Warehouse / factory / whatever you call it. What do you call it? Production facility. HQ. Would love to hang out and see some cool things being done. Maybe I can be a guinea pig on any of the experiments that you want.
You can design your own popsicle flavor if you want.
I can.
Yeah, of course.
Do you have a coffee flavored one?
We do.
Okay.
We have like 4.
Okay. I gotta think of something else. Because so happy when Laura Manning from EOA, she came up with the coffee bags. I was like, that's innovation. That is innovation. So I'd love to be a part of any innovation.
We don't have a matcha pop.
We're doing a matcha pop.
Okay.
I'll bring the powder.
Okay.
I'll bring the powder.
See you there.
You bring the water. We'll do it. But thanks for coming on. I think Alina and I both have a lot of lessons to chew on. Is there any final word that you'd like to give an audience? Mainly our entrepreneurs. Some of them are entrepreneurs looking to get into it. Some of them are even on their 2nd or 3rd business. Is there any message you'd like to give your fellow entrepreneurs about something that you've learned and has been helpful to you?
See the good.
Expand. See the good.
It's going to leave it hanging.
Is that an ode to optimism?
That's an ode to optimism, to happiness, to all the things that make me who I am. But ultimately, there are so many failures on the road. But even in every failure, there's a learning, there's a lesson, right? So even in that, try to see the good. When you wake up in the morning, see the good of what you're doing. It'll bring the inspiration, the positivity, the excitement for what you're doing. I find the times that I've been most successful in the business is when I'm constantly seeing the good. And when you see good, you find more good.
I love it. That sounds so good. It's highly, I'm going to put that on Sheikh Zayed Road as a billboard. Just see the good.
There you go. I've got a bracelet. I didn't wear it today. It says see the good.
You custom made see the good bracelet?
I bought it in New York and I wear it as a reminder.
Okay. I need to get something etched on my bracelet now.
If there was going to be a tattoo, that's what it would be.
Nice. Did you ever get one? Think about it.
I'll think about it. Never say never.
Awesome. Well, MC, thanks for coming on the show. This has been fun. And I know I'll see you around.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
It's been fun.